Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a, hopefully, sort of brief Lufia and the Fortress of Doom video. This video, the main purpose of it, is for me to test this microphone. I have a blue Snowball, it's actually orange, but I have a blue Snowball microphone in front of me. It is the Snowball and not the Snowball Ice, which is, from what I've heard, atrocious, and you should never ever buy it. I've had this microphone for over 2 years. It's just kind of been sitting here, and it's one of those things where, I'll get to that later. And part of the reason why it was, I'll get to that later, was because I had a sound setup that I really, really liked. But let me go back into, I'll take you back through my audio journey here, briefly, before we get started. And then we'll talk about Lufia. I really love this game. So I have a really poor sense of time, so I don't really have dates for you. But I bought a NVIDIA GeForce 970, so that should like date when this was. I was in the market for a new graphics card because I was chugging along on the current graphics card. It was almost 4 years old, you know. And it was like, it's just time to get a new one. You know what? Instead of going for like kind of the same level of graphics card I got last time, which was good but still kind of budget conscious, I said I'm gonna go for broke. I'm gonna buy this. I said, and I settled on this one because of the whole controversy around it. You know, if you don't know what the GeForce 970 was, it's the one where they build it as a 4 GB card, but it's like 3.5 GB of RAM and then like 512 of inferior RAM. And when they were benchmarking it, they suffered performance issues when they got above 3.5 GB of RAM, and it had to access that other 512 chip. So, but for my purposes, it's like, well, you know what? It's like it suffered a price hit because like when that hit, people were complaining and all this other stuff, and I got one for really, really cheap. Like I got it for like, plus there was a rebate and I had a gift card, and I was like, oh man, this is really good. I'm getting it for like $95 off of like MSRP. It was really good. It was, look, I still spent like $200 on the card, but like, you know, I have a job, I have no kids, I have income. So I have a good job and no kids. So when I plugged it up, because of the way my case is, I started to hear coil whine from it's coming from my graphics card. 100% for sure I have narrowed it down, but because of the way my case is and how small it is, there's really nothing I can do to fix it, short of building an entirely new computer or buying a new case and transferring everything over. I'm not doing that. That's way too much trouble, and frankly right now I just don't have the money. Or the time. But I did something, I don't even remember what I did now, and I fixed it on that headset I was currently using at the time. It was like a Turtle Beach brand headset that I got at Walmart, and I loved that thing. It was really good. It was really heavy though. I have nerve damage in this right side of my face, and it actually made my ear hurt if I wore it too long, which made the whole like right side of my face all the way down to my shoulder hurt. But it had really good sound quality. They were relatively comfortable other than being so heavy, and the microphone was really good. I recorded a lot of LPs on that headset. In fact, when it broke, I got another set. I stepped on the first set and broke the ear cuff because it's made out of plastic. The second set broke at the top in the middle of the band, and I was just pulling them off my head and they snapped. When headsets do that, I always rage because I'm like, because that should be the strongest part of any headset, you know? But it's always the first part to go. Let me actually go in here and like advance this a little bit. So anyway, so I ordered the headset that I'm wearing right now. It was like $100, like normally $200. It was on sale, and let me see if I can. Hold on, let me see. It's a. I think the brand is HX. I don't really know. HyperX. HyperX, yeah. Hold on, let me put them back on. Anyway, it's a HyperX brand headset, and it's literally the most comfortable headset I've ever worn in my life. It's light. It's made out of aluminum. The band at the top is aluminum. I'm sorry, I'm going to gush a little bit of these headphones. The cross pieces are made out of aluminum. The only thing that's made out of plastic are the insides of the cuffs. The outside is of the ear cuffs are made of aluminum, and then so they're really, 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 really strong, and they're light. Even though they're made out of a metal, they are a lot lighter than those plastic headphones that I had. So anyway, but no matter what I could do, I couldn't get rid of that coil whine. I'm gonna name Mario because the main character is red. Try and stop me. You can't stop me. You wanna know why? Because you're like on the other side of the internet in the future. So I was like, okay, well, I kind of had things going on in my life, so I didn't feel like fooling with it. So I just kind of like, okay, well, I need to stop LPing anyway and recording. I don't have time for it right now. So I'll just, instead of just doing it every once in a while, I'll just put it down and I'll come back later. Interestingly enough, while I was waiting for these headphones I'm wearing right now to come, I bought this really, really, really cheap, like $20, pair of Turtle Beach headphones from the console section, because apparently Walmart does not sell PC headphones anymore. At least my Walmart doesn't, for some stupid reason. Like, who can fathom the intricacies of Walmart, right? I don't even think Walmart knows what Walmart is doing. And I spent the entire, like, 2 sessions that I recorded with those headphones complaining about them. And the sound quality was really, really good. I was so surprised. And then, but they were cheap, man. And I really was actually going to record with them here because they're better than these freaking Razer Krakens I got for Christmas. My sister bought them, and these Razer Krakens they look really good, and that's about it. They sound terrible. They amplify everything. Like, you put them on and they blast your ears off. Like, I was recording Dragon Quest VIII and I literally could not, like, they were hurting my ears. I had to turn the volume down, which affected the volume on my recording. So it's like, you're like, oh my goodness. It's like either you guys don't get to hear the music or I go deaf. So I don't recommend the Razer Kraken. So, but right, because I can't find that other headset that I was talking about. Like, I can't find it anywhere. I tore my house apart looking for these headphones, and I cannot find them. I could have sworn they were in a box in my closet, and they are not. Things I did find. I found a half a box of .32 caliber ammunition, which I have no clue where it came from. I found a copy of Super Mario All-Stars. I found a completely unopened box of Raisin Bran that expired 2 years ago, and I found a $20 bill. So, but I did not find what I was looking for. That's basically how it goes. This is Lufia 2. It's an RPG. But anyway, they're atrocious. Don't ever buy them. Don't ever buy them. They are terrible. Oh my goodness. And uh-oh. I was ambushed. Whatever shall I do at being level 77? Do you have any idea? If you've never played Lufia in the Fortress of Doom, like, to get to the end of the game and be level 75 plus, do you realize how overkill that is? That's some pretty hefty overkill. So This is one of my most favorite RPGs. Like, if you pin me down, I have a really hard time when people say, "What is your favorite game of all time?" My de facto answer is Earthbound. Now we have the initiative. But my de facto answer is Earthbound because it was just such an important game to me at the time that I played it, and I think the game holds up really well for what it is. I mean, they went into it specifically trying to emulate like Dragon Warrior 2. So I mean, like, with that knowledge in mind, I just think that Earthbound is a charming game that holds up very well. So I know people that vehemently disagree with me, but if you pin me down and like just made me forced me to answer, I would say Lufia is in my top 3 most favorite games. It's definitely it's definitely in my top 10 most favorite games of any genre, but it's definitely in my top 3 favorite JRPGs. With Earthbound being number 1, it's really kind of hard for like the emotional effect. Like, all the games like on my top like whatever list are there for like an emotional reason mainly. This game right here is the first RPG I really sat down and beat. I just played. It is literally it's not one of the first, but it's not the first RPG I played. I played a little bit of like Final Fantasy 1, but I didn't know what I was doing like at all. It just kind of like, oh yeah, like 40 hours later I figured out how to beat Garland kind of thing. But Final Fantasy 2 on the Super Nintendo, Final Fantasy 3 and Chrono Trigger, I didn't play those. I played this game. This was my Final Fantasy 2, and Breath of Fire 2 was my Final Fantasy 3. And I just kind of, this is the game that I, think, like, story, like those same feelings people ascribe to Final Fantasy 2 playing it on the Super Nintendo, I ascribe to Lufia and the Fortress of Doom. I sat down, and kind of like a weird time in my life. It was the summer between 5th and 6th grade. I had gotten it. My aunt took me to this little hole-in-the-wall place in our local mall. Let's do Sunder. There's this little hole in the wall store called CDs and More. And they had I remember they had this game, and I still have this copy of the game that I bought. They had they had a copy of Lufia and the Fortress of Doom, still sealed in the plastic, in the original box with the original manual, and they had a copy of Illusion of Gaia, sealed and in the plastic. And my aunt had picked me up because we had basically lost our home at the time. Without getting into details, basically the place we had lived for the last 2 years, we were forced to move out. My mom packed us up, and me and my sister up in the middle of the night, we moved out. That frog had a miracle. That was Jesus' frog we just killed. So, we moved to this, really ratty duplex in literally the worst part of the town I live in. And, you know, I wasn't allowed to go outside anymore because my mom feared for, I mean, my mom had to, she worked, like, all the time. And, sorry, I should probably keep playing the game. And my aunt is real successful. You know, she went to school, she went to college, and she got a degree. And she is a PA. She's a physician's assistant. And she makes a lot of money. But my mom, she was actually an interesting story. She's always been really jealous of my mother's because she couldn't have kids. And she's always wanted kids. So she, whenever she'd come visit us, she'd always take me out. She'd buy me something, you know. And I loved my aunt growing up. She would, not just because she bought me things, but because, you know, she treated me with interest compared to, you know, the other side, my dad's side of the family, which always kind of treated me as a nuisance. And I really liked that. So, you know, I was kind of down in the dumps, you know, when she came to visit this one time, and she took me to the mall, and she was like, I'm gonna get you something. And I was like, she's like, I'm gonna get you something. What do you want? Because I think it was, she had missed my birthday or something, or Christmas or whatever. I think what it was she saw I was really sad because we lost her home. I wasn't around my best friend anymore. Just my whole life had been uprooted. She bought something for my little sister too, but my sister at the time was like 2. So, but here I am, I'm like 11 years old. 10. I was, it was right at the end of my 5th grade year, so that summer, like 5th grade had just ended. And she took me into the CD's More place, and she was like, pick out a game. And I didn't know anything about these games. Nothing. All I could tell was the box art, right? And what it said on the back of the box. And I picked Lufia because of the box art. You know, it's got the whole kind of like He-Man looking main character version of, it's got like the He-Man version of all the main characters. And I was like, oh man, this game looks awesome. And I remember not knowing what was going on with this game, but it was kind of like, I wasn't disappointed, and I sat down. I was like, okay. Like, I knew what an RPG was because I had played Super Mario RPG. So I was like, okay, this is an RPG. I kind of got what's going on here. It's a little different from Super Mario RPG. But because of Super Mario RPG, like, man, I was trying to do timed hits and stuff playing this game. I'm like, ugh. It's kind of like when you push up B to catch a Pokemon. Like, you know. And that was like a habit that like carried over into Breath of Fire 2 as well. I was convinced that if you press the button at a right time, you could make a spell crit. And it happened enough to where I was like confirmation bias. So but this is I played this game all summer, and that was the year before. So this would have been like 1996. No, 97. This was 1997 when I got this game. Because I know this because I'm fairly certain of this. Like, I have an absolutely terrible sense of time. But we moved into that duplex, and then my mother we moved in with my sister's dad, who was not married to my mom, but they kind of like, well, you know, they kind of, my sister's kind of the product of like a one-night stand. Not really a one-night stand. They dated a little bit, and then he kind of went on with his life, and she went on with her life, and then my mom found out she was pregnant, and it was like, well, I mean, he's not even on my sister's birth certificate. Okay. But they remained friends. Let's see, we want to do... Actually, we just want to hit this guy. Hit it very hard. I don't remember... Is trick attack power? I forget. Anyway, thunder will take care of this guy. Yes! Okay. Oh, not flood. So I played this game all summer. And, I beat it! This is the first RPG I, like, actually beat. And, you know, I took it everywhere with me. Like, for the entire summer. Every time I went to my dad's, I spent, you know, my parents are divorced, obviously. But let's just do a rally. No, not rally. My parents are divorced, and my dad was supposed to get me, you know, every other weekend. So, and then, like, 2 weeks in the summer. So, like, every time I went to my dad's, I played Lufia and the Fortress of Doom. Like, I just sat there and played it. And I played it, 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 and I played it. And I beat it. Let's see, what was it? I beat it shortly before we moved in over... with my sister's father. And because of that, my dad bought a bunch of Super Nintendo. He bought the 64 was already out at this time, okay? Remember, I was very poor growing up, so, like, I was always a console behind. So, like, you know, I had an NES until... All I had was an NES until, like, halfway through the Super Nintendo cycle, and all I had was a Super Nintendo, until, like, 97, okay? I didn't have anything else past the Super Nintendo in 1997. And, let's see, I forget, is he weak to thunder? I think he is. And we'll just do trick again. And because of that, it led, my dad bought, like, this, he bought, like, I forget, it was a storage building or something. Like, he paid for a storage building that had been abandoned, and, there was a Super Nintendo in there with, a huge stack of games. You know, mostly stuff like Super Mario Brothers, which every kid had, but there was a copy of Breath of Fire 2, and my brother Dusty, who is only a year older than me, he's actually my stepbrother, he's adopted, my dad adopted him, but my brother Dusty was like, man, I can't figure this game out, but he had seen me play Lufia and the Fortress of Doom. He was like, man, I bet you Nick can figure this out. And so, like, one time, he brought it with him when we went to visit my grandmother. And, he's like, man, play this game. Or, no, he was in there trying to play it, and he was like, man, try this. And I'm like, oh, well, yeah, you don't just rush through. You're supposed to grind it. You're supposed to, like, fight a couple of monsters and get stronger. Like, he was, like, he figured out where to go, like, to the mountain to fight the 3 harpies, but he couldn't beat the harpies. Because, you know, up to his experience with video games was telling him that you rush, you get to the end, you get to the next stage as quickly as you can, and you know, I sat there and was like, oh, well, you know, this is not that hard. Like, I stood there, I was like, oh, this is a healing point, and I just kind of killed monsters for a few minutes, got up to level 5 or 6 or whatever, and I beat the harpies. And he was like, and he snapped his fingers, he looked at me and said, I knew you could do it. And then my brother Dusty and I, we sat down, and he watched me play Breath of Fire 2. Most of it. He didn't watch, he kind of lost interest after a while, because I love Dusty and everything, but he's not exactly the most attentive person. Let's see. So, but I also remember that Breath of Fire 2 was the first game where I saw a cuss word. And I remember, like, defeating the Goldfly and seeing that the Goldfly says damn, and I'm like, and I ran. I was in my grandmother's spare bedroom at the time, and my brother Dusty was in the kitchen watching some show, late night show, on the TV that my grandmother kept in her kitchen, on her counter. He's watching some late night movie because I was in there playing a video game on the big TV, you know, the bigger TV. It was like only 19 inches. Back then, a 19-inch TV was huge to us, you know, because he's watching, you know, whatever on like a 8-inch TV. And let's see. This we just want to forget if they give you power gourds. They do not. I just use EX arrows then. So and he was like, what? You know, like, oh my goodness, that's a cuss word. Oh, you know, it was like, yeah, we just giggled. I remember that because we were kids. And that's what you do when you're a kid, you know? I'm gonna go ahead and use Valor. Yeah, Aram is strong versus magic. There's not really much you can do but, like, hit her very hard. I was kind of hoping those EX arrows would do a little more damage. So that's kind of like my history with this game. Let's see. I guess I could do mirror. Do mirror on Guy. I guess I could drain her defense, but whatever, it doesn't really matter. You literally have to try. I have never actually lost these battles. I wonder, like, what happens if you do lose. I mean, I'm not gonna find out, but I'm mildly curious. Let's see, what do you have? Do you have... You don't. All you have is fake. Okay. I forget, like, who has what in the intro here, because, you know, the actual characters you get during the game have different spell lists. So it's like, eh. Like, here you have 2 mirror users, but in the actual main game you only have 1. Like, yeah, mirror is like the most OP spell in any game ever. Yeah, I'm thinking about it, but yeah. It pretty much is. Like, what, like, let me tell you, like, a lot of people, like, I guess, like, if you start talking about the Super Nintendo era, the 5 games that everybody really has nostalgia for are Final Fantasy II, Final Fantasy III, Chrono Trigger, Super Mario RPG, which I have played and beaten, and I have a actual physical copy of, and probably, I guess that 5th game would probably go to Lufia 2, Rise of the Sinistrals. But like I didn't play like hardly. I only played of that list Super Mario RPG, and like back then I didn't own it. I actually only rented it. I rented it. Got all. I loved the game so much that I was in a game store in like the next town over that for like $20, because that's how much. No, $15. That's because that's how much Player's Guides used to be. They had a guide for it, and back then, like Nintendo really made I don't know if Nintendo made that, but like the guide to that game was really awesome. Okay, it was amazing, and let me see. What do I want to do? I guess we'll just do mirror. And I bought the guide, but I didn't own the game. I just rented it, and I got all the way to Nimbus Land, and I rented the same copy because the local video store was called 2-Day Video, which actually got bought up by Blockbuster and later became a Blockbuster. But at the time, it was 2-Day Video, which means you only rented games for 2 days, which was a weekend, which was good during school, but sucked during. It sucked a lot during the summer because you're like, oh man. Not trick. I wanted to put another mirror. But I got all the way to Nimbus Land, and then one weekend I wasn't able to rent it because I didn't have the money. So I had to wait till the next weekend, and because I had rented it like 4 weekends in a row, and my mom wouldn't let me rent it again. She's like, no, we don't have the money for that. And I had gotten all the way to Nimbus Land, and when I got it back, somebody had erased my file. So I actually ended up keeping that copy of the game and running up a humongous late fee until I sat down and beat it. It was like, I don't even remember like what time of the month, what time of the year it was. I think school was on, but I just didn't tell. My dad had rented it for me. And I just took it home and ran up a huge late fee, and he was so mad at me. But by God, I beat that game. I actually didn't get a physical copy of Super Mario RPG until I was in high school. But I really love Super Mario RPG. Most of the games on my list of like most favorite games are on there for like emotional reasons. Like, this game right here was the first game that I really sat down, and I conquered by myself. You know, I didn't have the internet back then. I figured it out all by myself. No. I didn't, dang it. Playing on an Xbox controller, and the buttons, the A and B are different. So like my muscle memory is like, okay, you're on an Xbox controller, so this is A and this is B. But on the, you know, on an actual Super Nintendo controller, it's like, no, this is A and this is B. They're reversed. So it's like, I could fix that, but then whatever. So I don't remember what I was talking about. So I think that's all I'm gonna like record for now, and like I apologize, this was kind of a meandering video. This is actually a game that I'm seriously thinking about LPing like here shortly. Like right now my current schedule is something along the lines of, you know, Dragon Quest 5 days a week and then nothing on the weekends. I was thinking about kind of doing this kind of on the side on the weekends. This is a game that requires zero preparation from me. I know this game very well. And, I know the game so well that I played along with a speedrun, and I beat the speedrunner's time. I was like, oh man, he's not doing that very well. I'm like, well, it'd be better if he did this. And I and suddenly I'm like 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes ahead of the speedrunner. And no, I'm not going to speedrun this game because, I think only crazy people speedrun games, and only the craziest of the crazy people speedrun RPGs that don't have massive glitches that allow you to skip 90% of the game. Because, when you have a 4-hour-long speedrun, you've kind of left the realm of speed. It's I like Fire Emblem, whatever the GameCube Fire Emblem is. I really like that game. I played it when it was new. I bought it. I beat it. I really enjoyed it. But, I don't think a primetime speedrun of that game was a good use of this lad's GDQ's time. But, like I said, this game holds that space in my heart that a lot of people reserve for Final Fantasy IV. Because, Final Fantasy IV for a lot of people was, it blew their little minds because, oh, wow, a game that has fun gameplay and story, and just, story is everything. And I've never been of the opinion that story is everything. I think story is really important, but story, you can have the best story in the world if your gameplay is, actively aggravating. I'm not going to play your game. I never have been of that opinion that story is everything. You've got to have a fun battle system. I mean, and all that. And, I happen to like RPG battle systems. So, I mean, that right there is... that right there is probably my crazy talking. I know a lot of people that don't like turn-based battle systems, which is fine. Different strokes for different folks. But I do know several people, one of the people I know who, he went through this story is everything phase, and he felt unless your game had a really good story, it could have really good gameplay, but, and now he's kind of the opposite opinion, that story doesn't really matter, it's gotta be, 100% gameplay. But, I'm just kind of, of the mixed opinion, I think a good story is good. I mean, a game doesn't necessarily have to have a really amazing story, but, if that's what you're going for, then that's what you're going for, I don't think the answer is on one extreme or the other. I think it's a sliding scale, depending on what you're going for in your game, But, I don't like games where, the systems of the game are actively trying to antagonize the player. I mean, difficult games are one thing. The SMT games, I like those. They are, difficult and all that, and you play things like Final Fantasy IV DS, where, it is designed specifically to screw with veterans of the original Final Fantasy IV. Boss strategies and things that worked in the 2D versions will get you outright killed in the 3D version. One of the things I really like about this game right here is this right here. I played this game first, and I was like, man, they talk about Maxim's adventures 100 years ago and how he led armies. The battle ended. The armies, they faced off with the Sinistrals. And then you played Lufia in the Fortress of Doom, and I always was kind of disappointed with Lufia in the Fortress of Doom. So much of the game is pointless, alright? I mean, there's literally an entire dungeon in Lufia 2 where, the whole impetus, I don't even remember how you said it. But anyway, the whole reason you're going in the dungeon is because Salon is having a hissy fit. She doesn't trust Maxim. And you're like the women in that game are absolutely bonkers. And you know, it's just like I mean, don't get me wrong, Lufia 2 has Dekar, which like makes it awesome by default, but I prefer Lufia in the Fortress 2. So anyway, I'm gonna stop here. And we've been recording for, I've been rambling, oh my goodness, I didn't mean to ramble, for 40 minutes, so I'm just gonna stop here. Thank you.